Hello ladies and gentlemen and falls between, my name is Toons. Welcome to my totally not late Halloween special. But ignore all that for now, I'm talking about analog horror. There's this series called Urban Spooks, which I personally am a fan of, but it's controversial and a lot of its criticisms, well, yeah, they're valid, there's just no denying it. Especially because of a certain child. Like I said, I personally like the series. It is flawed. There's so many tons of problems. Like, mainly its writing. The fact that the story was feeling like it was going nowhere, it was constantly just gruesome murder descriptions, which is cool and definitely has its impact, but it doesn't really work well as a series. Either way, you get the drill. This series is pretty controversial, and understandably has a lot of flaws, but I believe most of the flaws have been fixed by this newest entry, and by far, I think one of this video might be one of my favorite analog horrors ever made. It is so jump in quality, and almost everything I would have had problems with the last couple episodes has been fixed because of this one. And of course, before I get into actually talk about the contents of this video, a disclaimer warning for like any horrible thing known to man. But all that aside, we're gonna finally get into Urban Spook, The Painter, Episode 9, Hell. The video begins with the police getting an anonymous tip from someone about two trespassers in a paint factory. Gee, I wonder who those two could be. Yeah, those two. You see, I wasn't really too hopeful for this because, well, seeing this, yeah, it's just generic urban spook. Photo, text, whatever. And then after that, we're on straight up body cam footage. This looks awesome. Like, genuinely caught me by so surprise, and adds pretty much most of the things that make this video so good is its body cam footage, especially towards the end, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The body cam parts look really convincing and I think really well made, but also not just like full on realistic. In parts, kind of give off this weird painting or abstract thing. I don't know how to describe it, but it looks good either way. And of course, we see dead bodies. They are obviously censored. I might censor them more so my video doesn't get age restricted, but you get the basic idea what they're meant to be if you watch the original video. In fact, I believe them being blurry adds a lot to this video. The fact that this is rendered in an engine, the blur effect adds a lot to hiding it. We get ideas what they are, especially with the simple tech, but with this more obvious visuals, that's a lot more horror to it. And of course, with all the episodes, the sound effects and the music is really effective at building up suspense. I think it gets used really well at one point, but once again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Find out the killers were also making a dress out of people's skin, which isn't out of character of them if you know anything about them. In fact, it's one of the more tame ones. As the cop that explores more and more, it's very obvious that this wasn't just a place they were hiding out for a little bit because they were on the run. This is clearly their main place of operation, with all the bodies leaving everywhere. Some of them are callbacks of earlier things. There's this one line that they describe it by, the room was oozing with a stench of death. That's a bit try-hardy for my personal liking, but it's whatever. There's a body on one of the mattress that's insanely decayed, and knowing these two degenerates what they were probably doing with that body. And on the table we have these free photos. They're pretty convincing. And then we see just a straight up dead body that, well, this person is getting freaky with. This part is a heavy improvement on a lot of other episodes. Urban Spooks kind of had a bit of a style overlap in places where stuff is clearly meant to be obviously paintings so they don't look like real life and all this shit. You know, they're more abstract and all this. And then there's parts where they're meant to be photos, but this is not how a person looks, man. You can't convince me otherwise. Also, I don't know if this part counts as a jump scare, but the sound drop with these photos adds a lot to the scene. It's next to a cage, and the fact that this person was walking on all fours in one place makes me think they were treating them like a dog for so long until they will eventually kill the man. And I might be reading too much into this especially, but I believe they were making that person drink it, at least for their only substance for water supply. Corey and Margaret Bett, which were the two twins that were oofed and murdered, their other two halves are kept here, clearly as, Also, we find out that they are eating people, but like, I honestly could not care at this rate, because that is my least of my concern. As we keep going, we find good old Hangin' Jimmy hanging in there. We find the paint room, which is a cool idea to see, well, where they were painting these paintings. So that's pretty cool for the most part. We see that there's currently an unfinished one. I don't exactly know who this is meant to be or what. I see a lot of theories going around that it's the person with the skin mask. I don't exactly believe this theory, mainly because why are they painting him? Is this supposed to be a self-portrait or whatever? I don't fully know. Even though I may not believe that it's the skin mask guy, I don't really have a theory otherwise what it could be either way. So maybe there'll be an answer later on. We see all these fucked up paintings. Emma's Last Smile, Bloated Betty, Stone Loop. I'm very curious but not excited to figure out what this one means. Mark the Machine. Okay, you can put the implications why this mouth is shaped like that. Mike's Teeth Health, The Collins. If you were going back to this series earlier, you would remember the Collins. They were a victim of family of this really weird-ass, creepy-looking police officer, but him and his family were all killed, holding stuff in a barrel. This is obviously a representation of that. Untitled, which was the painting I was talking about earlier. Apparently in the next room, the missing Jones family was found. Oh, that's the little girl. A chain was dragged through their bodies, through each other. Oh, great. Isn't that so nice? I believe the blur effect honestly adds so much to just seeing this. Like, it's so fucked, man. And then apparently their bodies were a different level of dissolved, so that means some of the family members were still alive watching some of their loved ones get killed while they eventually become like that. It's just so fucked. After that, we hear of Sarah Stone and her husband. By the way, we're the two people that were kidnapped from the last episode. And we see that they were... Well, that makes sense now. Eventually, when we get deep down, we see the phrase, "Once you've been to hell, you never come back," sporadically written everywhere on the walls. Apparently, this phrase comes from an interview of one of the survivors of their attacks, Tina Rosenberg. I interpret this line on the wall as them feeling malicious and hateful, the idea that she came back and just out of complete spite. And where we'll see go on eventually. I don't think I'm wrong. After that, we see a clip of the interview where it's actually acted by a real person. I don't necessarily know if this is from something. Every time I've tried to do research or anything like that, I've never came across something. So I'm going to assume this is original, which is cool, definitely, especially seeing an actual actor.
I'll never recover. I'll never be the same. Those people took me to hell. And once you've been in hell, you never come back.
You know, after hearing that, maybe it's a good idea to do a wellness check. You know, maybe. We eventually get to meet Nathan Collin, who is the MVP of this whole franchise. We eventually get to see body cam footage and, well, you hear the screaming, so I highly doubt some innocent activities are going on. This whole segment looks great. It looks genuinely well made. Person's already out there for their gun. It's so action-packed. They're all ready. And then we see the two murderers, both of them. It's disgusting looking at both of them. It's so kind of awesome. The skin masked one tries to attack the cop, and, you know, he ain't a superhuman. We are left with nothing but hearing her scream constantly. It's horrible and painful to listen to, and all we get left is this image of this piece of shit holding her hands up. We find out that they were puncturing her eyes and ears with needles, making her blind and deaf. And the worst detail to add to it was that she kept screaming for 20 minutes because she didn't even know that she was being saved. And her mother that she was staying with, well, she's dead. We found out the other killer that is now dead now was a former police officer, Bill. Specifically this weird-ass looking guy, so I guess that explains a lot of things. I want to point out a note is that his face is clearly, well, not there, which is why he wears probably a skin mask. Fun detail, in one of the episodes, you can see what is supposed to be Bill and one of his daughter's skinned faces. One of my major questions is, why did they exactly skin Bill's face and do all this horrible things? Well, was it all the setup to cover his tracks? Or maybe Bill was a genuine victim of the other painter that became, well, acquaintance or whatever. I don't know, maybe a question up for thought. Also, Bill could just be a masochist who likes feeling pain or whatever. I don't know, they're fucking crazy people. They rip and kill people. What do you expect? Bill has a missing arm and, well, I guess that's where the third arm was from the wax this whole time. And then after that, we get the main killer that we've known this whole time. As it's revealed in the photo, the huge scream that we hear. There is nothing but her screaming in the background. We don't have any music or anything. And dear God, I want the music back because I don't want to hear this anymore. Voice acting's oddly been one of the more consistently good things in this whole series. And you know what? If you're watching this, any of the voice actors, you guys are fucking phenomenal, and I hope you're getting paid very well. Mona Lisa. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's clearly a tie to the name Mona Lisa. You know, keeping the whole painter aesthetic. We find out that, well, this whole killer the whole time was a girl. I don't even think this is intended to be some, oh, big reveal or anything like that. I just genuinely never knew. So I guess where all the boner pills and the penetration was coming from one side or the other. Or maybe she had something else on. I don't know. It's gross to think about. I don't really wanna. But either way, she's confessed to over 100 murders. Before anyone criticizes that number being so high, it's like, look up real serial killers. Some of them go extreme numbers. And of course, it's fiction. I don't fucking care. But either way, she's gonna stand trial where she's, let's be real, probably not gonna be getting out at all. Like, best sentence she could have was life, and I wouldn't be shocked for the fact that the number and how gruesome all these things are, probably death. I'm very excited and very intrigued to see where it would all go. Is the final episode going to be a courtroom? That would be interesting. Is it going to be boring where she somehow manages to get out and continues killing people? That would be kind of a little bit more boring, but I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm pretty interested to see what it might be. This series is still not perfect, and this one episode doesn't magically change all the poor parts and poor decision making when it came to this series, but I really do think it has redeemed a good chunk of itself. This is a major step up, and even though I don't think the painter has much more longer of a run, I'm very curious to see what other stories Urban Spook will try to tell. I really liked this video, but just because I liked it doesn't mean everyone's criticisms of this whole series isn't valid. I personally think this was the right decision. This body cam adds so much to it, and overall, I think the storytelling is a little bit better than the rest of the series, but it's a huge step up like I've said already. And if you're interested in watching this video series, the link will be down in the description. Until next time, thanks for watching everyone, have a good day, bye. It feels like